I'm Elizabeth Davis Hanson, and what I'm about to discuss represents far more than the corporate maneuverings of a single restaurant chain. We're watching a California institution, one that has defined the state's identity for nearly 8 decades, publicly grapple with whether it can continue to thrive in the place that created it. When a company as deeply embedded in California's culture as In-N-Out Burger begins to explain why it's looking beyond the state's borders, you're witnessing something profound about the changing nature of American economic geography. For 77 years, In-N-Out Burger has been more than a business. It has been a symbol of what California once represented: entrepreneurial spirit, family values maintained across generations, and the possibility that you could build something lasting without compromising your principles. The company never franchised, never went public, never chased Wall Street's quarterly demands or private equity's efficiency mandates. In an industry defined by expansion at any cost, In-N-Out remained stubbornly, almost defiantly, loyal to its founding vision. And that vision was born in California, nurtured by California, and has thrived for 3/4 of a century as a distinctly California success story. The story begins in 1948 on Francisquito Avenue in Baldwin Park. Harry and Esther Snyder opened a modest drive-through stand at a time when fast food was still a novelty, when the concept of ordering a hamburger from your car represented something modern and exciting. Their approach was straightforward in a way that now seems almost quaint. Quality food served fresh, never frozen. A menu focused on essentials rather than endless variety. Harry worked the grill. Esther managed the books. They built their business through personal attention and a commitment to standards that didn't waver based on market pressures or competitive threats. What the Snyders created wasn't just a restaurant, it was a template for how family businesses could operate with integrity in an increasingly corporate landscape. As California grew in the post-war decades, as the state transformed from agricultural heartland to economic powerhouse, In-N-Out grew alongside it. Those red and yellow signs became landmarks across the state, from the sprawling suburbs of Los Angeles to the agricultural towns of the Central Valley. Each location echoed the original commitment. Each burger reflected the same standards Harry and Esther had established in that first small stand. The business passed from Harry and Esther to their son Rich, and then to their granddaughter Lindsay Snyder. 3 generations of family ownership spanning more than 7 decades. Through all that time, through all the economic cycles and cultural shifts and competitive pressures that have destroyed countless other family businesses, In-N-Out never deviated from its core principles. It never franchised, which meant it never surrendered control over quality to independent operators more concerned with profit margins than product standards. It never went public, which meant it never had to answer to shareholders demanding growth at the expense of values. And it never expanded recklessly beyond its ability to maintain the standards that made it successful in the first place. This restraint, this almost anachronistic commitment to doing things the right way rather than the profitable way, created something rare in American business. In-N-Out became woven into the fabric of California life in a manner that transcends normal commercial relationships. For many Californians, In-N-Out represents more than convenient food. It represents continuity in a state defined by constant change. It represents California's own mythology about itself, the idea that this place rewards hard work and integrity, that family businesses can still compete against corporate behemoths, that quality matters more than quarterly earnings. Consider what In-N-Out's presence actually means across California. The original Baldwin Park stand still operates after 77 years. Think about that. The physical location where this all began remains in business. serving customers, functioning as a tangible connection to the company's origins. From San Diego to Sacramento, those red and yellow signs mark more than restaurants. They mark gathering places. They signal familiar comfort in an increasingly unfamiliar landscape. For many California families, visits to In-N-Out are embedded in routines and celebrations. A burger run becomes a shared tradition, something that connects parents to children, that marks milestones and ordinary moments alike. The company's continued commitment to its employees reinforces this sense of being something different, something better than typical fast food operations. In-N-Out pays above minimum wage. It maintains high employee satisfaction. It has earned a devoted workforce by treating workers as assets rather than expenses. With 281 of its 418 total locations in California, the company supports thousands of jobs directly and injects millions of dollars into local economies every year. These aren't abstract statistics. These are real people earning real wages in communities that depend on stable employment. This is why In-N-Out's story matters beyond normal business coverage. The brand is inseparable from California's own identity. When people think about what makes California distinctive, In-N-Out appears on that list alongside the beaches, the weather, the entertainment industry, and the technology sector. It represents California's ability to create and sustain something uniquely its own, something that couldn't have emerged anywhere else, something that reflects the state's particular character and values. So, when discussion turns to relocation, when the company's leadership begins talking publicly about the challenges of operating in California, it feels less like a business decision and more like a fundamental question about belonging. Can the things that made California great continue to exist in the California of today? Can family businesses maintain their values in an economic environment that seems increasingly hostile to anyone not willing to adapt, compromise, or leave? These questions extend far beyond corporate offices and boardrooms. They touch communities that have long counted In-N-Out as their own, that have incorporated the brand into their sense of place and identity. The financial stakes are substantial. With 281 locations in California alone, any significant operational changes would ripple through local economies in measurable ways. But the emotional stakes may be even greater. In-N-Out is not Chevron or Charles Schwab or any of the other major corporations that have quietly relocated headquarters out of California in recent years. Those companies, however large their economic footprint, never achieved the cultural significance that In-N-Out holds. They were always seen as businesses first, as economic entities that happened to be based in California but could just as easily operate from anywhere else. In-N-Out is different. It is California in a way that transcends normal corporate identity. The company's founding mythology, its family ownership structure, its commitment to quality over growth, its resistance to franchising and public markets, all of this aligns with California's own mythology about itself. The state likes to think of itself as a place where you can start with nothing and build something great through hard work and vision, where family values and business success aren't contradictory, where staying true to your principles is rewarded rather than punished. In-N-Out embodied all of these ideals. It proved they could work. It demonstrated that you didn't have to choose between profit and integrity, between growth and values, between success and soul. This is what makes any discussion of In-N-Out's future in California so fraught with meaning beyond the immediate business considerations. If a company this committed to California, this embedded in California's culture, this successful by any measure, begins to question whether it can continue to operate in the state that created it, what does that say about California's trajectory? What does it reveal about the changing economic realities that govern business decisions in the 21st century? And what does it portend for the countless smaller businesses, the ones without In-N-Out's resources and brand recognition and loyal customer base that face the same pressures with far less ability to adapt or relocate? For decades, In-N-Out defended its turf against every pressure that has driven other businesses out of California. It weathered recessions and regulatory changes and competitive threats and economic cycles. It maintained its standards when other chains were cutting corners. It kept wages high when other companies were suppressing labor costs. It stayed private when going public would have made the founding family fantastically wealthy. Through all of this, In-N-Out remained in California, remained committed to California, remained a living example that the California dream still worked for those willing to work hard and maintain their principles. Now, for the first time in 77 years, that commitment appears less than absolute. The company's leadership is speaking publicly about the challenges of operating in the state. They're opening offices in other states. They're acknowledging that raising families and doing business in California has become difficult in ways that previous generations didn't experience. When an icon like In-N-Out feels compelled to explain why it's considering new beginnings beyond California's borders, you need to pay attention. This isn't just about a burger chain. This is a turning point in California's economic identity, and what happens next will tell us a great deal about whether the California that created In-N-Out still exists at all. In July of last year, Lindsay Snyder broke her silence. As the third-generation owner and chief executive of In-N-Out Burger, she addressed rumors that had been swirling for months about the company's intentions. Her statement was carefully constructed, precise in its language, clearly designed to draw bright lines between different aspects of a complicated situation. In-N-Out, she emphasized, is not moving its corporate headquarters out of California. The company is opening an Eastern Territory office in Franklin, Tennessee, while the heart of the business remains in Baldwin Park, the original home of the brand where her grandparents first opened their doors in 1948. We are not moving the headquarters. That was the official message, stated clearly and without ambiguity. The clarification aimed to calm what had become a genuine storm over the brand's future in California. But Snyder went further. She addressed what she clearly saw as confusion between her personal choices and the company's strategic direction. Where she raises her family, she said, has nothing to do with her love and appreciation for customers in California. She acknowledged directly what many business owners feel, but rarely say publicly. Raising a family is not easy in California. Doing business is not easy in California. Yet she made a deliberate point to separate those personal observations from corporate decisions. We are not leaving California or leaving our roots behind, she stated. Each one of our locations is here to stay. The company also laid out concrete operational plans meant to demonstrate commitment rather than retreat. In-N-Out intends to close its Irving, Texas office by 2030 and consolidate operations in Baldwin Park. This reaffirmation of California as the operational center was intended to counter the narrative that the company was slowly exiting the state. Snyder's remarks served as the official response to months of speculation, carefully crafted to reassure employees and customers that the brand's California legacy remains intact while acknowledging the legitimate challenges that California's business environment presents. But here's where words and actions begin to diverge in ways that create reasonable questions about long-term intentions. Lindsay Snyder's decision to move her family to Franklin, Tennessee, placed a spotlight on more than just personal preference. It coincided with concrete steps by In-N-Out to expand its operational footprint in the Southeast. In Franklin, construction is underway on a new Eastern Territory office, a $126 million project scheduled to open in late 2026. This facility is designed to support the company's growing network of restaurants in states like Tennessee, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and is expected to create roughly 200 new jobs in the region. $126 million. That's not a satellite office. That's not a modest administrative facility to handle regional paperwork. That's substantial infrastructure representing serious long-term commitment to operations outside California. The timing of the Snyder family's relocation and this Franklin office construction fueled speculation about the company's actual trajectory, challenging the neat distinctions Snyder tried to maintain between personal and corporate decisions. While In-N-Out's official headquarters remains anchored in Baldwin Park, the visible investment in Tennessee signals something more calculated than simple geographic expansion. It represents a hedge, a recognition that concentrating everything in California may not be sustainable indefinitely. To understand why even In-N-Out is thinking this way, you need to look at California's economic landscape with clear eyes. The median price of a home in California now exceeds $800,000. Let that number settle in your mind. $800,000 for a median home. That means half of all homes cost more than that. For employees trying to afford housing anywhere near their workplace, this represents an almost insurmountable barrier. You can pay your workers well, as In-N-Out does, and they still struggle to find affordable housing within reasonable distance of their jobs. High operating costs ripple through every level of a company, from wages to utilities to regulatory compliance. New labor laws, including that $20 minimum wage for fast food workers I discussed earlier, have increased payroll expenses across the entire sector. These aren't modest increases that companies can absorb through minor efficiency improvements. These are structural cost increases that fundamentally alter the economics of operation. Tennessee, by contrast, offers no state income tax, a significantly lower cost of living, and a regulatory environment that business leaders consistently describe as more predictable and less burdensome. During the pandemic, California's approach to safety mandates created additional pressures that many business owners found excessive and arbitrary. Restaurants had to install barriers, check vaccination status, maintain complex compliance systems that added both cost and operational complexity. These requirements lingered long after the acute phase of the pandemic had passed, long after other states had moved on. For companies trying to operate efficiently while maintaining quality, these ongoing burdens compound the other challenges California presents. These pressures have not only shaped personal decisions for leadership like Lindsay Snyder, they have influenced broader business strategy in ways that may not be immediately visible but are nonetheless real. When news broke about Snyder moving to Tennessee and In-N-Out opening the Franklin office, headlines erupted nationwide. Major outlets ran stories claiming that In-N-Out Burger was relocating its headquarters to Nashville, that the chain was leaving California, that Snyder planned to live permanently in Tennessee. These reports often blurred the line between personal and corporate decisions, fueling a narrative that the company was abandoning its home state entirely. Commentators seized on Snyder's remarks about family challenges and business difficulties, framing the developments as conclusive evidence of a hostile environment driving out even California's most loyal companies. The coverage quickly shifted from business analysis to political commentary. Editorials and talk shows used the story as ammunition in broader debates about taxes, regulations, and quality of life. Critics accused state leaders of driving out yet another iconic brand through policies that punish success and make normal business operations unnecessarily difficult. Amid all this noise, genuine confusion grew about what was actually happening, with headlines amplifying speculation and increasing pressure on both In-N-Out and California policymakers to respond. Supporters of In-N-Out's approach point to continued investment as evidence of commitment that goes beyond headlines. With 281 stores still operating in California, the company maintains a presence that dwarfs its footprint anywhere else. Defenders argue that consolidating in Baldwin Park, rather than abandoning California mirrors choices other major brands have made when facing similar pressures. When Tesla announced its headquarters move to Texas in 2021, it kept engineering and design teams in California. Relocation doesn't always mean complete retreat. For In-N-Out, the Tennessee office represents practical support for growth in the Southeast, not rejection of California roots. But here's what I see when I look at this situation clearly. When a company as deeply rooted as In-N-Out feels compelled to publicly explain its relationship with California, when its leadership acknowledges that operating in the state presents challenges severe enough to mention in public statements, when the company invests $126 million in infrastructure outside California while promising to stay loyal to its home state, you're watching adaptation in real time. The question isn't whether In-N-Out loves California. The question is whether California's economic realities allow even the most loyal companies to continue operating as they have. What happens next will shape not just business decisions, but the identity of a state that has built its mythology on the idea that success and integrity can coexist, that family businesses can thrive, that California rewards those who stay true to their values. That mythology is being tested right now, and In-N-Out's next moves will tell us whether it still holds true.